We were going over, last week we went over some concepts of lighting and camera movement and lenses, this idea of formal and social contexts. And so I like to pull out videos from YouTube that I feel like kind of talk about different aspects that we go over. And so this is really funny because it gives you these characters kind of point of view and more of that social element rather than that formal element. They talk a lot about that, and I think that that's really interesting to watch. And so I put that up there for you guys to watch. And so what I want to talk a little bit about is, you know, some aspects of each film that you want to be paying attention to. And what I like to do is I just pull up, the Wikipedia of them. And where did that go? Okay, maybe it'll just, let's see. Strange. Okay, open a new tab. Maybe it'll open it there. Yeah, there we go. So The Big Lebowski was made in 1998, and so these are just elements of things that you want to remember. You're basically getting used to understanding these aspects of film and the films that we're watching. So again, it was made in 1998. And according to Wikipedia, it is a crime comedy film, written, produced, and directed by the Coen brothers, right? So, do you need to know the directors? Yes. This is important because we talk about the styles, right? And so what we're talking about this week and last week, is all about the directors and what they're choosing to do in these films. So each director is different, right? And so in this case, like with The Big Lebowski, it was written, produced, and directed by the Coen brothers, right? And so that to me is pretty significant. You don't see it a lot. So there's that. And again, this kind of gives you a little bit of information about the film when if you're wanting, and it's nice to know this as like a overview, but it says the film is loosely inspired by the work of Raymond Chandler. Joel Coen stated, "We wanted to do a Chandler kind of story, how it moves episodically, and deals with the characters trying to unravel a mystery, as well as having hopelessly complex plot that ultimately is unimportant." And so, the two terms that you're going to notice that you're going to see a lot of here, episodic is something we're going to learn about, and plot, right? Those are two very important terms that you need to know in regards to film, right? The Big Lebowski received mixed reviews when it released, and over time, the reviews became largely positive, and the film actually became a cult favorite. But what's interesting is, like it says, in the beginning, it wasn't received well when it was released. Because it's a cult favorite now, the reason why it became a cult favorite is eccentric characters, comedic dream sequences, idiosyncratic dialogue, an eclectic soundtrack. In 2014, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally and historically or aesthetically significant. So the reason why I think that's all, there's about 5 terms which I pointed out. The 3, right? But then also knowing like what the National Film Registry and the Library of Congress is, right? know that anything that we go over in here, it's almost like every time we meet again, it's almost like a review. So it's like I'm bringing it up again to point that out. And so one thing to see here, within something to know, and I'll probably point this out almost every film, maybe, we'll see. But again, The Big Lebowski was released Sundance Festival in 1998, and then also in the United Kingdom, right? The only language it's in is in English. Its budget was $15 million, and then for the box office, it made $46 million. So in 98, that might have been pretty good. We could look at the average, but I think considering the reviews and how it took a while for it to become that cult favorite, it took a little while for it to generate that income. So now we're going to go to Interstellar. In 2014, it was an epic science fiction film co-written and directed and produced by Christopher Nolan. Brothers Christopher and Jonathan Nolan wrote the screenplay, which has its origins in a script Jonathan developed in 2007. Caltech theoretical physicist and 2017 Nobel laureate in physics, Kim Thorne, was an executive producer and acted as a scientific consultant and wrote a tie-in book, The Science of Interstellar. And so this definitely comes together with science, and if you looked at the videos that I posted, some kind of like are making fun of the film, and I try to really bring in all different aspects of the film because of these films and opinions and videos, like not just the things that I love, because to be honest, I really like Interstellar, but I posted a video that's basically making fun of it, because I think it's important to not be polarized as a professor. Because what happens is you guys don't even know that you're seeing things polarized. And what I mean by that is, like, because of the way that you have grown up, because of the way that you see things, you might see things very left or right. We say that in political terms, right? But that's this concept of polarization. Like, there's no middle ground, or there's no, if you're thinking left, there's no right type of concept. So I like to try to give you different aspects of that through those YouTube videos. And I think that YouTube does a pretty good job of, like, you can find whatever aspect you want to see in it. So it premiered in 2014 in LA. And it was first released on film stock, which we talked a little bit about, what that is, and digital projectors and things like that. I plugged my PC in. It's telling me it's not plugged in. Let's see. So it grossed worldwide $677 million. So when you compare that to The Big Lebowski, right? It's like, okay, there's a huge difference between these films. Now, given one was out in 98, the other's in 2014. But still. It was first released on film stock, expanding to venues using digital projectors. It is the 10th highest grossing film of 2014. It received acclaim for its performance, direction, screenplay, musical score, visual effects, ambition, themes, and emotional weight. It received praise from many astronomers for its scientific accuracy and portrayal of theoretical astrophysics. It actually has a cult following. Many sci-fi experts as one of the best science fiction films of all time. It was nominated for 5 awards in the 87th Academy Awards. And then here you can see it was released in both countries, UK and the United States. Its budget was 165 million, and then box office is 773 million. All right, so Inside Out, 2015. Pete Docter was the American computer director, animator. He co-wrote it. It was produced by Pixar, which we talked about in our first lecture. A little bit, you know, it's interesting, like, this includes him noticing his daughter's personalities as she grew older and how that influenced him. Inside Out debuted out of competition at the 68th Cannes Film Festival in 2015. And it received positive reviews. And it earned $858 million worldwide. It finished its run as the 7th highest grossing film of 2015. It was nominated for 2 awards at the 88th Academy Awards. And then there's supposed to be a second one coming out. So, really interesting to see, you know, just the type of income that comes through with these. Another thing that is interesting is to pay attention to the distribution. So I don't believe that they even said who distributed The Big Lebowski, but Interstellar is Paramount Pictures and Warner Brothers. That's international. And then Inside Out is Walt Disney Studios and the production company Pixar. And then last but not least, we have Moonrise Kingdom in 2012, American coming-of-age comedy drama, directed by Wes Anderson and written by Anderson and Roman Coppola. In crafting their screenplay, Anderson and Coppola drew from personal experiences and memories of childhood fantasies, as well as films, including Melody, The 400 Blows. Auditions for child actors took 8 months, and filming took place in Rhode Island over 3 months in 2011. It premiered in 2012 in the Cannes Film Festival, and it received critical acclaim with its themes of young love, child sexuality, juvenile mental health, and Genesis flood narrative being praised. Critics cited the film's color palette and use of visual symmetry, as well as the use of original composition by Alexandra Desplat to supplement existing music by Benjamin Britten. It was nominated for the Academy Awards for Best Original Screenplay and the Golden Globe for Best Musical or Comedy. In 2016, the BBC included the film in its list of greatest films of 21st century. So aesthetically, formally, but also socially, this film was highly, highly successful. But, you know, when you judge what is success, right, the box office, it brought in 68 million. Its budget was 16 million, right? So look at that vast difference here between Inside Out and Moonrise Kingdom, or Interstellar and Moonrise Kingdom, right? And the production companies, and again, you're going to notice, right, these larger budgeted films, when you compare these production companies, you know, you'll start to notice a pattern here. And this is something we go over later, but you can already, when you start to notice these things, you begin to recognize, you know, why some films are more popular, why some films gain more box office popularity, right? And some of these aspects, you know, you begin to notice. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the lecture. And a lot of this we've already gone over, so now I'm just going to give you examples of the topics of this week through the films that we've watched. And so this is a primer to what semiotics is. And so I would say semiotics is one of the more difficult concepts for the students to understand. I do think it is a more graduate level. I got my graduate degree, my master's degree in London, and I actually don't believe I ever even studied semiotics until I was on that graduate level. So I find that pretty interesting that this course brings that in, but I also think it's also really important. And so the quicker we introduce it and kind of introduce the ideas with styles and themes, aesthetics, formal and social, you start to understand what that actually means, right? So we're going to go over some editing concepts like long take, continuity, discontinuity, continuity, discontinuity, and montage. The sign. So within the sign, there is the signifier and the signified, and then there is the reference. Between that, there is the syntagms and the paradigms. So within the sign, there's something that is like the word, which is the signifier, is the word tree, right? And so what's signified to us is a tree, and that's that image of the tree, right? So when you think about the sign in general, the sign can be many different things. It can be a word, it can be an image, it can even be a sound. The sign is lots of things. It's like any form of communication is the sign, right? But there is something called the signified and the signifier, right? And so the signifier attaches the signified, right? So we're the signifier and we attach a signified to the signifier. But even the word is a signifier, and you attach the image to the signifier, right? So the meaning that we attach, right, that is the sign, right? So the sign is the meaning the signified, which is the tree in our mind, right? The word tree is also the sign. And so it kind of goes around in a circle, right? But then we have something that we call the referent. And the referent is, yes, it contains, a sign, like this is a car. We know it's a car, right? But there's something external from it being a car. And that's because 007 uses the Aston Martin, which is this car. So if you're a fan of 007, then for you think immediately 007. And so that's the referent. It's something that you refer to that sign that's external from it being a car. So this connects to, understanding signs within film and styles within film, and how certain styles and certain signs communicate certain things to us, right? So it's interesting because this already has Get Out, which I like. Our weeks are a little bit different this go around. I'm not really sure why, but anyway, This is a scene from Get Out, and we won't talk about that just yet. Hopefully there's not a bunch of examples about that. So when we think about signs and reference, right, if you look at this picture, now there is a referent for The Big Lebowski and the dude now because it's a cult classic. So if anyone ever sees this, they think The Big Lebowski. It becomes a reference. Like, they know what this is. But if there's people, like in this class, who've never seen this, they wouldn't know, and they wouldn't think about The Big Lebowski. They would think bowling, or they might even think about the brand here, which is Miller Lite, right? Like beer, the referent of, oh, that's a beer, right? So it depends, the viewer, it depends, right, on where the viewer is coming from for what exactly is their referent in, you know, within the signs, the semiotics of the sign, and what's communicated. So the paradigms and the syntagms are basically, the symptomatic axis is like a storyline, and the paradigms can be changed. So the man cried, the boy died, the boy sang, right? So this is just using languages differently in this sense. But the book uses an example of how a lot of these paradigmatic terms can be changed out in a plot. Like if it's a gun, it could be a knife, it could be, right? And so things can be switched out, but it overall means the same thing. Like what's being communicated is the same. So a lot of times, you know, that paradigmatic access line can change out and mean the same things. I have to be really honest, I do not believe that there's any exam questions on this, because we don't really focus on it very much. It's just, we're just exposing you to it. There is questions about semiotics, what they are, right? And so that's why, you know, understanding that this is the process of communication and understanding the sign, right? The signifier, right, places the signified. The signifier is the form. The signified is the concept which creates the sign. The signifier places the signification, right? So it's just different ways of pointing that out. So what is a long take when it comes to editing?